Order of magnitude is a way we describe things generically. So the idea is, you know, like when you're, this is one thing people get hung up with when they're doing something like calculating a tip. Let's say the cost of like a burrito, an enchilada, and a couple sodas at a restaurant was $31.07. Now, when I go to calculate the tip, I don't calculate the tip for uh, $31.07. I calculate it for, well, if it's bad service, I calculate it for 30. If it's good service, I calculate it for 35. You go, well, I want to tip 20%, so I move the decimal over 1, that gives me 10%, then I can double it. So you can see, you know, a slightly less good tip is $6, a really good tip is $7. So I simplify my life by just rounding things off a little bit. And there I just rounded it to the nearest 5, $30 or $35. For order of magnitude, we we go to the nearest power of 10. So what are the powers of 10? Let's kind of talk about this a little bit because I always think this is kind of interesting. 10 to the 0 is 1. So what's a meal that you get for a dollar? You can get like something from the dollar menu at McDonald's. 10 to the 1 is $10. So what kind of meal could you get for $10? Well, you could get one of their nice number value meals, right? You know, like a double quarter pounder with cheese is basically $10. 10 squared is $100. Now that's a pretty decent night out. Maybe you're going to Crush or something like that. I don't think Crush closed down, but it's kind of a fancier dinner. 10 cubed is 1,000. Now that is a night where maybe you go to the opera and then you go out to a fancy dinner and you stay the night in San Francisco. That becomes a really, really fancy night. And that, I mean, you could probably do all of that stuff for less than $1,000. But I mean, the idea is like that one jump in order of magnitude totally changed what you could do. 10 to the fourth. Now with that, what I'm going to be doing for $10,000 is I'm going to be going to Mexico for a few days and staying at a resort. Airfare, you know, full service at the thing. You get a little wristband. You get everything for free there. You know, you go on a couple tours and stuff. That's 10 grand. 10 to the fifth, $100,000. Well, that's basically a quarter of a house, right? So that's more money than I make in, well, about a little bit less than what I make in 2 years, right? It's basically 2 years of my life is $100,000. So you can see order of magnitude builds very, very quickly. The other important thing to notice here is look at the exponent, 0, and then count the number of zeros that are in the expression. 1, 1 0. Power of 2, 2 zeros. Power of 5, there's 5 zeros. That's important because when I have a big number like 95, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this is really close. 95 is really close to 100, right? I just stack all those extra zeros on there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you can see I've got these zeros all matched up. But I added those two more zeros in there because 95 is basically 100. And that's the idea is I'm always just going to round up to the next power of 10. Next one of these guys right here. So 95, what's that? 1,000 million. 95 billion is basically the same as 100 billion. And all I have to do in an order of magnitude is call this 10, count up how many zeros there are, and there are 11. So 95 billion is basically 10 to the 11. It's close enough. Really, if you had 95 billion, the amount of difference it makes saying that you have 100 billion is almost nothing other than like bragging rights. It's basically an ungodly amount of money. let's go ahead and apply this idea. Well, one thing, you can do this in reverse too. 10 to the negative 1 is 1 over 10. 10 to the negative 2 is 1 over 100, right? Negative just flips the sign. All right. Suppose the average height of a man is about 1.7 meters, and the average height of an ant is 0.0008 meters. How many orders of magnitude tall as an ant is a man? So 1.7 is basically 1.7. The closest order of magnitude there is going to be 1. Now let's take a look at the, well, if you think about that, if you remember something called scientific notation, it's 1.7 times 10 to the 1. But we're not really talking about that yet. 0.0008, so 0.0008. Well, it's smaller, right? So, but 8's pretty close to 10, so why don't I make that a 10? And notice here this is 0.001. And if you remember your decimal place names, you have tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Thousandths. Okay, I think I spelled that wrong, but I think we can figure it out. 0.001 is the same as 1 over 1,000, which is 1 over 10 cubed. So how many times is tall? Well, let's take 10 to the 1 and divide it by 1 over 10 cubed. Now, just looking at the denominator here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it, and I get 10 to the 1 over 10 to the negative 3. And now I have matching bases. 10 to the 1 minus negative 3 is the same as 10 to the 4, or 10,000. A person is about 10,000 times taller than an ant.